Okay, in this video I will explain the demand security action at method level. So we will pin it down. So here is the class sec methods check. It has a three function. One is get env demand level 1, which makes a call to get env demand level 2. Then get env demand level 2, which makes call to get env demand. And here is a get env demand, which reads the system environment variable and returns that to the caller. We have two system environment variable. One is username and another one is a sec test. So in this demand security permission, I will demonstrate the security action demand with the help of this security permission. That means environment permission. So in the first level, I have an environment permission, security action deny. This deny is only for a sec test. I will explain this in more detail later. And this function doesn't have any security attribute, and this function has two security attributes that I will explain soon. But all the security attributes are commented at present. So first let me build this. Build is succeeded. So before we proceed, I'll just show the application is running in the local intranet zone, and I modified the environment permission so that it can read username environment variable as well as a sec test environment variable. Okay. The sec methods exe is considered as a partially trust application, and it is treated that it is running in a local intranet zone, and these are all the permission it has. So there are a lot of other permission. To explain the security permission at method level, I'm going to use only this environment permission. Also, this explanation mark here shows that we elevated the permission. That means by default we will get a read access to username environment variable. I created a new environment variable called sec test. Then I specified that here. Okay. Now let's go to the method. The class sec methods check has three functions. The first function at present it has read access to both sec test as well as username. Similarly, this function also has the same two permission, and this also has both the permission. So now if I run the application and read those environment variable, so I'm choosing a demand permission, then I am trying to read the username environment variable. So without any problem I will get that. Similarly I will get sec test also. Right, now what I will do, I will demand both the permission at get env demand. Okay, before that I will explain what demand permission is. So here we are demanding the permission, environment permission. That means the environment permission to read sec test environment variable. So that's the security permission here, and we are demanding that permission. That's the security action that we are implying on this security permission to read sec test environment variable. Okay, now what this security action dot demand is going to do? Okay, it demands the permission. That means it states that this method requires reading the test environment variable as well as username environment variable. So it's making a demand. So the demand is success. Why? Because uh, since the application is running in the local intranet zone, and since the zone has both the permission, so the security attributes make sure that this function can be executed without any problem. Not only that, the demand also looks all the caller in the call stack should also have these two permission. Now let me put a breakpoint, and we will see what happens. Before that, I will make a build here. Note that now we have three functions: function 1, function 2, and function 3. Demand level 1 makes a call to function at demand level 2, and demand level 2 makes a call to function get env demand. Right, now let me execute it. So I'm clicking on the demand permission, then I'm clicking read. Since I put a breakpoint, you can now see how the execution goes. From the form UI, we are coming into the get demand level 1. So I'm just getting inside the other level, I mean some other function. Now I am at get demand level 2. If you open a call stack, you can see that we are at get env demand level 2 function. Now I'm trying to get inside the get env demand, but get env demand actually demands two permission. One is sectest and user, and another one is username. So reading this environment variable is already granted to this function. Also, the function in the call stack, that means demand level 2 also has that function, and demand level 1 also has that permission. So without any trouble, we can get inside this function. Now if you see, I got inside, and I can even read that environment variable. Alright, same goes for a sec test also. So I can read both the environment variable. Now what I'm going to do, at the very first level, demand level 1, I'm going to use one more security action called security action dot deny. So what it does, it denies the permission. We know that get env demand level 1 has the permission to read the sectest environment variable. Why? Because the application is already given that permission here at the zone level. Right, we have the permission to read and both username as well as a sectest environment variable. So what I'm doing, through this method level permission attribute, I'm denying that already existing permission. Now what happens if I execute it? So I'll build it. So if I execute it, when we come to this point, or when we are making a call to get env demand, we won't enter inside this function at all. Why? Because to enter inside this function, all the call stack below this get env demand should have the access to reading the sec test as well as username environment variable. But down the call stack, we denied the permission here. So that means this function, executing this function will not be allowed. So we won't even enter from here. We directly goes to the catch section. Okay, let's see that by keeping a breakpoint. Uh, okay, I will read the sec test environment variable. Right, I entered inside the first level of the function, and here we denied the read for sec test. So I'm getting inside the another function, but this function has access to both sec test as well as username environment variable. That means this function can read both. Only this function is denying the access to read the sec test environment variable. Right. Now if I try to get inside this function, I will not be allowed. Why? Because this is demanding sec test environment as well as a username, and sec test is denied here. So here I am trying to read the sec test, and if I try to get inside this function, that will not be possible. Exception will be thrown, and that exception is printed on the output window. So request failed. Right, now I'll try to read the username environment variable. Here reading the sec test environment variable is denied at demand level 1. So I'm stepping inside. Now I'm going to make a call to get env demand. The variable that I'm going to read is username. Now you may think that since username is not denied here, you may be allowed inside this function, but that's not the case. Why? Because to enter inside the function is demanding permission for both environment variable, sec test as well as username, and we know that we don't have permission to read the sec test at 2 level below the call stack. So it doesn't matter what your runtime condition, whether it is username or sec test. Since it is demanding for both, the demand fails. Why? Because the demand get paused for username, but the demand will get failed for sec test, as there is a deny already. So once again we will get a security exception. Right, now what can I do to make this to work? So I can either remove these two, which you already saw, or I can only or I can remove this deny. If I deny that, the demand will get succeeded, and we will get both the environment variable. Why? Because it is claiming security demand for sec test as well as username, and all the call stack has that permission. So this is one way. I'll just check. This time I don't want to put any breakpoint, so you can see both environment variables read properly. Now what I'm trying to do, I will deny that sec test, and here I will remove the particular security action sec test. But what happens now? If you see at the call stack level, at demand level 1 itself, I denied the permission. So after that, this function is making call to demand level 2. here since it is at the top level, even though this function has permission to read the environment variable set test and username from the application zonal level, since in the call stack level it is denied, and the function which denied the access to that security access is making call to this demand level 2, here we won't have access to that deny. Suppose if your call is coming from a different function which has this which has the access to this set test environment variable, then this function also has. Why? Because the grant is coming from the zonal level. But even though the grant is from the zonal level for this function, since the function above the call stack is denying it, the particular read is denied here also. Right, what happens here? Here we are not actually demanding the sec test. That means when we make a call to getty and we demand, we are allowed inside it. Why? Because there is no demand. If there is a demand, the function entering into the call stack itself is denied because of this demand security action. But here, since there is no demand, we will get inside. But the truth is, since the security action is denied 2 level above, the secure and the call is coming from here, demand level 1 calls demand level 2. That means demand level 2 also has denied access to this sec test, and this one calls get env demand. That means this function also won't have read access to that sec test environment variable. So what happens here, we will enter inside this function, but when we are reading this environment variable, that time exception will be thrown. Why? Because we don't have access to read the environment variable because of the deny here, right? So if we have put the demand action here, then we are not allowed inside this function at all. Since we don't have the demand permission, we are allowed inside this function. But when you are making a call to this function, I will get an exception here. Let's explore that with a breakpoint. Before that, I will make a build. Okay, there is no error. Note that this error comes only when we read the sec test, right? Why? Because we are denying the access to sec test only. So when I click username, so I'm getting inside, entering the second level function. I will get entered inside. So I have access to the username environment variable, and nobody denied that also in the previous call stacks, so I can read it safely, right? Now if I try to read sec test, that is denied here. Okay, I will get inside it. So here also it is denied, even though this function has the grant from the zonal level, since the function demand level 1 is calling demand level 2, and since demand level 1 has denied access to this sec test, here also we don't have the access. Okay, now I'm entering inside the get env demand. Okay, here the demand goes only for the username, and we removed the demand for sec test environment variable. Since there is no demand, it will enter inside this function. But when we try to read the environment variable, since we don't have access to that sec test environment variable, the function throws an exception. Let me step over it, but that won't get executed, and the exception bubbling happens. Here there is no try catch block, and it thrown a exception, and since the exception is handled in the previous call stack, we entered there, and now it displays request for the permission of type system.security environment permission. So it's talking about this environment permission, and the requested permission is not available. That's all here on the demand permission. Before I close, the demand permission will look for all the function which is in the call stack to have the requested permission. So in our example, we requested the permission for reading the environment variable username as well as settest, and checked how the demand permission and demand action is applied on these security permissions. That's all on this video. I'm closing it now.